Today on The Nation Speaks, Hispanic voters have never mattered more to an election. They're by far the fastest growing demographic, and they're shifting loyalties. What does it all mean? We find out from Javier Palomarez, President and CEO of the U.S. Hispanic Business Council. Then in America Q&A, we ask people across the country, is there any issue that would motivate you to change how you vote? Next, Southern Texas could flip red. We dig deeper into the all-important Hispanic vote with Rafa Bejar, Director of Outreach at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Finally, in our second America Q&A, should daylight savings time be permanent? Hello and welcome to The Nation Speaks. I'm your host, Cindy Drucker. There are a lot of close midterm races to watch, and one of the demographics that could tip the scales are Hispanic Americans. They're the nation's fastest growing electorate. Of the nearly 8 million new voters added since 2018, 62% are Hispanic. They now account for 34.5 million potential voters. Traditionally, Hispanics will reliably vote Democrat. That's been shifting in real time. In the most recent Americana Media poll, on the generic congressional ballot, 50% plan to vote Democrat, 36% GOP, and 14% are still undecided. That 14% spread between the parties is tiny compared to the over 30-point spread we saw in 2020 and the 40-point spread in 2018, according to exit polls. Our two guests today help us break down some of what's behind this dramatic shift. Joining us now is Javier Palomarez, the President and CEO of the U.S. Hispanic Business Council. Javier, welcome.
Hi, Cindy. Thanks for having me.
I was just saying in the introduction how much the Hispanic vote has grown in the United States. It's really quite remarkable. And we're also seeing this shift to voting Republican, which has not traditionally been the case. President Trump captured 29% of the Hispanic vote in 2016. Then in 2020, that jumped to nearly 40%. What are you expecting this time around, and what is it that is motivating voters?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting dynamic. As we look at the midterm elections, you know, the Hispanic vote will be the difference between wins and losses in a variety of states. And, you know, the Hispanic vote is transforming literally before our eyes, and it's going to play a major role in the midterms. You know, traditionally, Cindy, when you look at the Hispanic vote, in its broadest context, and you look at it across the United States for all Hispanics that vote, it typically, historically, and right now, is splitting out to be about 50% are voting Democrat or lean toward Democrat, 30% lean Republican, and then about 20% are undecided, and therein lies the game when you look at it from a national perspective. But the real battle in the midterms is going to be fought in about 6 key states. And in those key states, it's different. We just completed a survey in the key states of Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. And in those states, when we polled or when we spoke to Hispanic business owners, the split is almost evenly distributed amongst the 3 categories. It's about 32% leaning Democrat, about 30% leaning Republican, and about 30% still undecided. So it's a significant shift toward the undecided category, and therein lies, you know, what I think will be the wins and losses for key states, particularly, you know, Nevada, Pennsylvania, certainly, Florida, and maybe Colorado. So the real battle is in those 6 states, and in those 6 states, Hispanics will play a disproportionately important role.
What is going to sway those swing voters, especially, you know, with very few days left? You recently did the poll, so it's pretty accurate. What's going to sway them?
You know, when we spoke to and again, these are Hispanic business owners in these 6 states. When we spoke to them, we talked about and we asked about, in order of importance, what are the things that will drive your voting decisions? What's going to drive you to the polls? And when you get there, rank for us these 4 things. They were abortion, immigration, healthcare, and the economy. And lo and behold, the answer came back crystal clear. By far, the economy, number 1, healthcare, number 2, immigration number 3, and immigration as an economic issue, and the commercial interests of this nation as it relates to immigration reform. And number 4 was abortion, which was a bit of a surprise for us. We thought abortion would play a bit bigger role, but come to find out, when it comes to the voting decisions, what we're hearing is, listen, I'm a business owner, I'm in Pennsylvania, I'm in Nevada, and I've got to keep the lights on. I've got to keep my business running. And what I'm hearing from the Republican Party perhaps is more along the lines of the issues that are important to me in terms of my day-to-day life and keeping my business alive and growing. And so we're seeing, I think, a shift toward that kind of thinking, and they're looking for, as you can imagine, some kind of hope, and they're hearing that hope from the Republican rhetoric that's being used in those key states.
Going back to our discussion on the Hispanic vote, joining us now is Rafa Bejar, Director of Outreach at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. He's been in the political game for 3 decades, including as a former National Director of Hispanic Coalitions for the Republican National Committee. Rafa, welcome.
Hi, welcome to me.
Let's get right into it. You're in South Texas, where over 90% of voters are Hispanic. We have 3 Latinas running for House seats as Republicans with very good chances of winning: Mayra Flores, Monica de la Cruz, and Cassy Garcia. Flores, of course, won her special election back in June, becoming the first Mexican-born woman to sit in the House. It was also the first time in well over a century that the area has voted red. And 2 more deep blue seats could go that way, too, if de la Cruz and Garcia win their seats. So tell us, what is going on down there?
Yeah, listen, I think it's exciting, especially that there are Latinas that are leading, this movement, this front. And I think that what's changed is that a couple of things. Number one, Hispanics are proud Americans, and they have seen over the past few years this sort of subtle, not so subtle bashing of America by liberals, and they don't like it. And they're very proud to be American, and they want to move forward, and they want to be they're patriotic, and they want to fix their own home communities. And I think that nothing really describes that better than Mayra Flores' own campaign slogan, which is God, family, and country. And when you're talking about folks in South Texas, you have some people who are Tejanos who have been there for 5 generations or more, basically before Texas was even Texas. And then you have newer immigrants like Mayra Flores herself. But they're all very proud to be Americans, and they see that their community is in trouble, their country is in trouble, and they want to, take leadership.
As you mentioned, Mayra Flores is campaigning on a slogan of God, family, and country, which are more conservative Republican values. If that's an accurate reflection of Hispanic Americans in general, why have they traditionally voted Democrat?
Yeah, for an outside observer, it does seem a little bit confusing. But once you know a little bit about the history, in that the Democrat Party was basically the only political party in town, because the Republican Party really didn't have a very active presence in South Texas at all. And it's really not until the late 80s, early 90s, where you even have Republican Party really starting to move in there.
Hispanics obviously aren't a monolith. So which element within them are shifting more toward the Republicans?
I would say that certainly you have the folks that are more rural in nature, and South Texas is a little bit more rural than urban. And I would also say that the Hispanics that have been here longer are also starting to step up and shift a little bit. But also there's some new immigrants that are, feel very strongly that, they've just become American citizens, and they're very concerned in the direction this country is going. I think that all of it, stems from basically, kitchen table issues.